Where are you at your absolute best? The best you, not in comparison to anyone else. The you who is the most engaged, the most happy, the most active, and the most social. Don't know? Then you really need to keep watching, because what's keeping you from accessing the best version of yourself is not knowing what you would even do with it if you had it. Oh, you do know when you're being your best self. Then you really do need to keep watching, because you're probably not leveraging it as well as you could. And leveraging the best version of yourself is one way you can immediately transform your life and really step into living your dreams. You're definitely going to want to do this, because it's going to enhance your relationships and enable you to leverage your best into all areas of your life. For the past 5 years, I've been running an experiment about where and when I'm at my best. So before I explain the experiment, I need to give you a snapshot of where I was just 5 years ago. I had just gotten a divorce and I was a brand new single dad. I don't recommend it if you can avoid it, but sometimes that's just how it goes. For those of you who have never been through divorce, your life changes rapidly, and so does your sense of self. After 8 years of marriage, I didn't know who I was anymore not being married. I had to rediscover myself, and though there was pain and sadness that went along with this, I looked forward to exploring and finding myself again. What I hadn't anticipated though was how much my relationships with my kids was going to change. I knew it would be tough, but I was up for the task until I realized I was failing at it miserably. I'll come back to this in a moment. Not only had I split from a marriage at this time, I was also trying to transition to a new business which I had no model for or any pathway to follow. I was just making it up as I went. Running one business and trying to start a new one consumed so much of my time, taking my attention away from my kids, and they also found my new apartment boring and always wanted to go back to their mother's place. Tired of fighting to make them stay, I conceded defeat and told them they didn't have to stay at my place anymore if they didn't want to. I was hurt, but I couldn't blame them. Part of rediscovering myself was deciding to start traveling again. It was much needed therapy. Travel has always been incredibly important to me, but after I got married, I never had the time nor the money. Travel to me is as important as sunshine is for most people, something I hadn't realized until this process of rediscovery. Without it, I feel like I'm just existing. If you're a traveler as well, you know what I mean. As I began doing YouTube in order to grow my new business, I fell in love with creating videos, and I started paying more and more attention to YouTube creators like Casey Neistat, who not only lives a dream life and makes awesome content, he also happens to love travel. I came across this video where he was talking about his son, who Casey had when Casey was only 17 years old. Now, Casey is a workaholic, and he also moved to New York 3 years after his son was born with very little money. I think you see where this is going. I'll let Casey tell it.
So as he grew up, as he got older, no matter what, every year on his birthday, he and I would take a trip. No matter how broke I was, I would always put aside money. I'd save up the entire year if I had to. He and I would always have a trip. So it'd be just the two of us to have some special time together.
When I travel, I feel like I'm at my absolute best. I'm less inhibited, more likely to handle problems in a relaxed way. I'm more social and outgoing. I'm happy. In general, I feel most authentic. What I realized when I saw Casey's video was that most of what my kids saw of me was a dad who was too detached, too busy, and stressed. No wonder they didn't like being around me. It suddenly dawned on me how much seeing the worst of me had shaped my relationships with my kids in just a matter of months. I had to do something fast or else lose connection with two of the most important people in my life. So for the past 5 years, I've been taking each of my kids on their own trip of wherever they want to go. I was even able to maintain this throughout the pandemic. These experiences have been some of the best times I've had with my kids. Overall, it's made me a better person, and I've been able to take this better version of myself into other areas of my life. So the first key to this is to figure out when and where you are at your best, which I will help you do in this video. But first, is there someone important in your life who doesn't get to see the best of you? Chances are there is, and I would dare say there's probably more than just one person. Is there someone you feel like you've failed? Be honest with yourself. It's okay, because you're going to fix it. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You don't know when you're at your best, and that's probably because you're comparing yourself to other people who you think are better than you. Stop it. right now. Comparing yourself to others will never help you. For one thing, it will take all of the joy out of your life and make you feel unmotivated to be your best. Because why try to be your best if there's always someone better? Whether it's your career or your relationships, be your best for you first, your life, and then be your best for the people who love and care about you. Trust me, do it this way first. It's not being selfish. If you don't take care of you, you can't take care of your relationships with others. So without comparing yourself to anyone else, when and where and doing what are you at your absolute best? It makes it a lot easier when you only compare yourself to yourself. Be careful to differentiate between being your best and when you're trying your hardest. Trying implies that you're failing. So the times and the areas of your life where you try the most aren't necessarily the times when you're at your best. It's okay even if you don't think your best is even all that good. If you think that, it's probably because some part of you is still comparing yourself to someone else. Again, stop doing that. It's not helping you. There certainly are people who can do things better than you can. That's different. But just because someone has more skill or more knowledge about something doesn't make them better than you. Their worth or their value is no greater than yours. Think about your best as being when you're better than you are at other times and in other contexts in your life. The only way you're going to be able to leverage your value is by being able to recognize when you're at your best. Because when you find your best, you can model that and map it across into the other areas of your life. There's actually a NLP technique called mapping across that I teach. It's a simple and powerful modeling process. It enables you to bring your best self into any context you want, but it all starts with first identifying what your best is on your own terms. So start there. When and where you're at your best contains all of the resources you need to be your best. Your internal resources that go with you everywhere you go. Your best contains the right attitudes and the right beliefs, and it shows you who you truly are, your true authentic self. Once you know all of this, you can then start to take some life-changing actions. It takes a little bit of time to map this out, but it's not difficult and it's absolutely worth the effort. To get started, write a list on one side of a piece of paper, your attitudes, your beliefs, and your thoughts when you're being your best self. If you have some NLP training, write out all of the submodalities on the side of the page as well. Now think of when you're at your worst, and on the other side of the page, write out all of your attitudes, beliefs, and thoughts when you're at your worst. And again, if you have NLP training, write out those submodalities. Not only can you see how different you are in each of these contexts and why, now you know how to change it. Imagine what it would be like to bring all of your best attitudes, beliefs, resources, and submodalities into the context of when you're at your worst. When you can really do that, can you still be at your worst in this context of your life? No, you can't. You immediately become better. Now do this for every area of your life. In the meantime, find ways to make it so that your loved ones get to see you at your best. I can't stress enough how important this is. Your relationships act like a mirror. They reflect who you are. How you show up in your life is immediately reflected back to you through these relationships. It's so much easier to be at the top of your game when you can clearly see yourself being at the top of your game. Do this and it will change your life. My relationships with my kids are the best they've ever been, and I have no doubt that the experiment worked and continues to work. Even though the trips we take are only once a year, my kids get to see the best of me. And when we come back from a trip, it's so much easier to keep being my best with them, even when we're doing the normal daily grind. I know I spent a lot of time in this video emphasizing relationships because trust me, they're so enormously important. But your success is also important as well. If you want to know how to leverage your best self to achieve your greatest success, you'll want to watch this next video where I show you what it takes. And my son enjoyed it so much that he's a little emotional right now, as you can see behind me. He had to take some time off, but I think he's going to be okay. But that's how amazing this museum.
I'm fine. It didn't affect me.
So yeah, he's getting over it.
It didn't affect me. I'm fine.
So as you can see, he's extremely emotional, and
Yeah.
he's going to need some